have been artists all my life. There might have been more than us three as artists in the family of 10, but Floyd Tunson is an artist that has survived. My two brothers that were artists, my oldest brother was JC, who was the biggest influence on me. Actually, I idolized him. My youngest brother, Randy, was probably the most gifted of all of us. But his career was cut short by an incident in the city park of Denver in 1973 when he was shot by the police. It's devastating to lose anybody in your family, through natural causes or whatever, but to have them shot down in the park by the police is even worse because it puts a scar on you. I know I was so upset the way they treated my family after the shooting when the helicopters flew over the house all night. They thought that perhaps we were upset and everybody in the black community was upset and they were going to do something like riot or terrorize everyone. But it was just so painful to watch my mother sit on the porch in her grief and these helicopters constantly flying over the house with their searchlights and so forth, expecting something awful to happen. That's when I probably really had an affinity for the youth I felt that was always in a tenuous position or in danger in this particular society. And that's probably when the Endangered series really took hold after the death of my brother. The imagery in Hearts and Minds is, you say it's very complex. I think there's dichotomies there where they're the endangered and then they're endangering at times, because in society, when you have these enclaves of disenfranchisement in society and so forth, or you have areas of society where there's a lot of violence. And violence is in the black community just like it's everywhere else. And for a while there, it was really a lot of gang activity, black on black crime. And it was sad to see that the endangered were also the endangering. Some of those individuals that you're talking about in Hearts and Minds, it's no different than it is today. There's many handcuffed individuals that are not menacing or doing anything. They just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong police. I never had a clue that the mayor of Denver was in the Ku Klux Klan until later on, much later on in the 70s. And really after all the uprisings in all cities and so forth in the 60s, it was much later that we realized that the Klan was very prominent in Denver. I mean, they said that it was like 170,000 strong. And that's pretty strong for a community like Denver, Colorado. So the Klan, and they weren't ashamed. They had parades and so forth. So the Klan was pretty prominent in Denver from 1936 on. Of course, they were underground when I was growing up. We didn't see anybody in robes or anything or knew very much about activities of the Klan, but I'm sure they had disseminated into all parts of our culture there. Exactly. the cattle rustlers were not the people we assumed they to be. Well, the bottom rape, the bottom line for rape is that it became such a viable part of war and conquering, and to the victor go the spoils. My painting Wrestlers is about actually the discovery of oil in the Sudan, which was the elder of the Bush family that was responsible for that, but basically is fighting over the oil that exists in the Sudan. That's what Wrestlers are about. The Wrestlers are basically about also the Nubians who wrestling is very much a serious aspect of their culture of decorating themselves and having matches. And comics were probably some of the first images that were readily seen in newspapers in the United States and a lot of graphic novels and so forth in Europe. And I just happened to extract some of the images from Tintin in the Congo. And those are very derogatory images, and everybody says, why do you use those derogatory images to portray anything? Why would you want to bring those up? It's because you can't be in denial. When those derogatory images would have been utilized, they were basically trying to make us the buffoons and the backward people that we were not, because, you know, we preceded those modern artists. It's Picasso, Matisse, and all those who were very much influenced by going to the museums and seeing the African mask and so forth. They became what were the hip modern people, and they tried to make black people and Africans the buffoons. Instead of putting the canaries in the mine, I have the black youth in the mine. They're the ones that are kind of like the bellwether for the society as who's dying or where the danger lies in society. They're the ones that are disappearing. Universal bunnies comes from the derogatory term of jungle bunnies. They had lots of names for us. Jungle bunnies, coons, you name it. When you see the jungle bunnies, they're doing things that everybody does. Jungle bunnies are doctors. Jungle bunnies are masons. Jungle bunnies are lawyers. Jungle bunnies are judges. I mean, come on, we're the ones that built this country. Jungle bunnies did that. Once they started with the algorithms of doing facial recognition, that there was going to be a problem. Too many injustices have been put upon black individuals that are pulled into the criminal justice system because they have been misidentified. The algorithms are developed with mostly white males, and that's why they really don't work for recognizing black males and people of color and women. Probably the first blowback I got was from the Raw Deal. I couldn't sell one Raw Deal t-shirts. Everybody said, no, that's too much. That's too radical. I don't really get a lot of blowback, but I just don't get a lot of acceptance. I know it's probably going to happen, but I'm not so sure that I'll be around to witness the real changes that need to be made in relationship to the black male and just black people in this particular society now. I've met a few serious geniuses in the process of working on it. I met Tomas. I still get to collaborate with Yusef, who I've known for quite a while, and William Murray. I get to work with these individuals that are working on the project, and they have opened my eyes up to things that I don't know. I can't be all knowing. I hope when people see the endangered piece in its totality, I hope they break down on the floor and cry, and I hope they're screaming and just weeping and moaning and saying, that you hit it on the head. That's what I hope they'll do, but I know that's not what's going to occur. But that's what I hope they would do, that they would just say, you hit it on the head.
Okay.
I met Yusef back in 1975 in Colorado Springs. Yusef was living in Colorado Springs when I moved there. We just jived. We had something in common, and we had a certain electricity amongst us, and we just had somebody that we could relate to. I could relate to him, he could relate to me. We knew that we were neophytes in what we were trying to pursue, but we were really sincere about pursuing it. He was sincere about being a poet, and I was sincere about being a visual artist. And I feel like we are brothers from different mothers, and I have such high respect and high regard for Yusef. When I speak about Yusef, I speak in low tones. I speak very quietly about Yusef, because Yusef is just like he's otherworldly to me.